guys, I'm Fennig with Fennig Equipment, and we're here at Becks here in London, Ohio. I'm with Jared Chester, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about their closing wheel study they're doing here today. It's creeping up on June 1st, so what do we have going on here, Jared?
So basically the plot we're standing in, this is our closing wheel by condition on soybeans. So basically what we're trying to do is represent a marginal planting condition and then compare that to a good or an ideal planting condition, and then looking at how our different closing wheel setups affect emergence and then in the end yield. So basically what we got our control of 2 solid rubbers, and then our other treatment is these Yetter poly spikes. So we're testing that in marginal conditions, which we planted on April 27th. It was a Friday. We waited the weekend, came back on Monday, and then we put in our good pass. So then after that, we'll come out, we'll scout emergence, take stand counts, and then eventually take yield this fall.
Yeah, and you know, visually pulling up here on the gator, you can see differences between the Yetter poly spike and the control standard rubber. So we dug in a little bit more, and we actually did a few different stand counts as you go down the plot. And what did we find there, Jared?
So when we pulled stand counts, the plot's really on the west side of the plot. We got a little bit more clay content. We're in a no-till situation, soybeans following heavy corn residue. And in the tighter soils, we had on our wet pass, the Yetter poly spikes, we had 127,000 population versus 110,000 on our rubber. On our rubber closing wheels. That was in the wet marginal conditions, but as we got down the pass, we saw that gap narrow a little bit when we got into those darker soils.
Yeah, and also in the control rows, there was a lot more unevenness throughout, whereas it was much more uniform on the Yetter poly spike as far as where the beans were in the growth stage, which that was pretty interesting as well. So I think in the future there will be some of these plants that kind of fall out of line from being in a later growth stage. But then we wanted to take it a step further and dig up some roots, and we did find some interesting finds there. What did we see?
So basically in our wet or marginal pass on our control of the 2 solid rubbers, like Adam mentioned, we had a lot of unevenness and emergence in different sizes and different growth stages, and once we dug, it was pretty evident. We see a lot of corkscrewing as that plant's pushing up. We saw a lot of sideways growth, so we know we got that extra compaction right there in the seed trench, and we can see that some of those plants that are farther behind really struggled with that early emergence growth, and that's why we see the difference out here in the plot.
Yeah, and you know, so as you dig into it, we see differences visually. We see big differences in stand count, and also whenever you dig and look at the roots, there's a good bit of difference there. So I think all in all, a lesson, if you're going to be planting into marginal conditions, especially in this high residue environment, maybe some no-till, it'd definitely be beneficial to take a look at changing some closing wheels on your planter. Wouldn't you agree?
I think after the observations today, that's a fair assessment thus far. We'll see how the plot progresses in final yield, but definitely driving down the road, you can't tell a ton of difference from the road, but once you get out in the plot, there's some pretty obvious differences in emergence and uniformity out here.
Yeah, definitely something we're going to want to take through the fall, through harvest, and kind of chase down the end result. But we wanted to get out here today, and everyone reads the Becks books. They're the plot books there at the beginning of the year, and we really wanted to dig in and talk with Jared about what goes on throughout the summer and how they assess all of this information, because it's a lot of good stuff that they provide for you guys. So that's what we're doing here today, and we appreciate Jared and Becks taking the time to do the video with us, and just some good info.
Definitely.
Thanks.